All right, as we finish up and get ready to post, the thing to remember about digital painting techniques is because you're controlling all the pixels everywhere yourself, this could be used very easily on top of any other raster style art. So on top of compositing, on top of digital coloring. And can be used to kind of alter and touch up and make the art basically what you want it to be. So as I do little final touch-ups here, I'm just going to add some whiskers. And then I'm just going to do little strokes. I might do them on a new layer. I'm going to pick a bright color, but not pure white. And then just kind of brush out and away. Out and away. And then up here, little brow whiskers. Then maybe just a few of these little stray kind of whisker hairs in the black fur. Kind of breaking it up. So I did it on its own layer so that I could, now if I wanted to, I'll put a few of them in the wings, use my lasso and trim them. Just use my regular lasso, zoom in. You can see where those whiskers are. I'm just going to trim them a bit. And because they're on their own layer, I can also play with blending modes. Or I can make them a screen, like lighten anything behind, and then maybe take their opacity down just a little bit so they're not quite so strong. I can also even do crazy things like put a stroke around them or a drop shadow. Right? And then play with how big or strong that drop shadow is. Just so they're a little bit more present. No. Okay. So now I've got my little medieval cat with its wing. So how do I save it? Well, Command S to save it, but to turn it in, I'm going to turn off all the reference. So I just have my paint layers. Realize that it's made of at least 3 layers, right? A base paint layer, a rough paint layer, and a refined paint layer. And each of those layers make a pretty big difference. Then I'm going to turn off my background, and I'm just going to save it on white. And you can see the whiskers barely show up, but they do show up. And you could even just turn the background off completely and save it as a PNG. But I want to see your character with no background, or your painting with no background, whether it's a portrait or whether it's an animal. And then I'm going to say File, Export As, I'll do a PNG. We'll go to your downloads. Make sure you save. And if you wanted to ever add a background, it's really easy to do. You can just go to Pixabay and you can look up, let's see, medieval manuscript background. Who knows what I'll get. Here we go. Some nice vintage paper. Download that. Go to Photopea, bring it in from downloads. So this might be for my portfolio project or so. For my intern portfolio, maybe I want to have a background behind it. I don't want it to be a solid color. That's why I'm asking you to turn it in as white or as blank. But when it comes to my portfolio, maybe I do want a textured and colored background behind it. And that is very easy to add. You just move it on down, right? Another option is to turn off all your layers, select them all, and then go to Layer, holding down Option, and Merge Layers. So it's all on top, and then just play with Auto Tone. Right, you see how that changed the colors dramatically. And then I can play with maybe a blending mode of that on top of my original. And maybe a dissolve. There's just a lot you can play with once you have these paint layers. So there we go. Yeah, I like that. But the one I'm going to post is just the PNG or the JPEG I saved with no background. I'm going to rasterize that background, and I'm just going to play with its hue saturation a little bit, or its color balance a little bit, because it's a little toxic looking. Warm it up. There we go. And maybe play with its levels. Brighten its midtones just a bit. Nice. Then I can take my merged layer. Maybe I add a drop shadow to that. It's like I said, once you have all your paint layers, there's just a ton you can do with it. There we go. So it's just like doing kind of poster design, right? All right, so let's post it. So we go to our assignment. You can shortcut by going to assignments. Scroll down to assignment 7, where you post it. Scroll down to your post, where you put your artistic reference and your photo reference. And now it's time to post your next requirement, which is your painting. So, requirement, along with your reference. I'll put it in quotes, finished, because it's whatever is done right now. Digital painting with white or blank background. There it is. Then optionally, if you want to post one with a background as well, that can be an optional one. Shrink it so that it's not too small but shows up, right? And then I'll do an optional with the background. And for that, I'm going to crop it. And export it as a JPEG because it fills up the space. And then post that. But that's optional. And that concludes assignment 7, the last art assignment that I will be grading out of 3 points for you.